It's not that I want to pry into his intimate life, but I do wonder why he's so reticent to talk about it.
I could always ask him for you. Why won't you tell Sybil about your love lives?
Don't get too excited, this is as fun as it gets. This game was really a mixed bag for me. It had good elements, but the combat was a slog, and at certain points the way characters were written and acted had me laughing or rolling my eyes. This game did not make me feel anything other than exasperation, especially when it was clearly trying to make me emotional over a character death, and I simply could not have cared less. Because that is the proper way to say it, not I could care less, but I couldn't care less. I could care less means you do still care, but you mean that you don't care, in which case you should be saying, I couldn't care less. So anyway, this game was made by the French developer Spiders, who also made Greedfall and The Technomancer, among others, both of which, like Bound by Flame, were similarly received with a mixed reception. Janky, middle-shelf RPG seems to be Spiders' thing, and I'm not knocking that, because when things aren't polished to within an inch of their life to be perfectly shiny and presentable, you occasionally get something really interesting. It's just a shame that most of Bound by Flame isn't. But let's get on with it, shall we? I'm trying to reach 100k subscribers by the end of the year, so if you enjoy this content and want to stay up to date, you know what to do. Our journey begins with a voiceover from Mathras explaining that essentially this world is in the late stages of a zombie apocalypse. A conquering group of powerful necromancers known as the Ice Lords have been pillaging their way across the continent of Vertiel, leaving nothing but death and ice in their wake as they scour the world of all living things. They've been active for long enough that even scholarly folk in the current age believe that dwarves and dragons are just myths because both were wiped out by the Ice Lords and their Deadwalker forces centuries before. It alluded to that there are still full armies deployed against the Ice Lords by the humans and elves, but we never actually see those armies, presumably because the game engine would cry if it tried. It's mentioned that the elves had remained neutral up to now, which is probably the most realistic part of this, even if it's also incredibly stupid and short-sighted of a long-lived species. Like, you can see the undead army just keeps getting stronger with every town and stronghold decimated. What do you mean you're neutral in this conflict? What is the plan? Anyway, the important thing is that the elves have joined the resistance. There is also a small group of scholars called the Red Scribes, who are especially important because they believe they have the key to defeating the Ice Lords. And that's where we come in, as a mercenary of the Freeborn Blades called Vulcan. I mean, you can call them something else in the character creator, but everyone in the game will still call you Vulcan, so what's the point? I also chose to play as a woman because of course I did. Up in some dry, dusty mountains in a dry, dusty temple, the scribes are performing a ritual meant to tip the scales in our favor, and the blades are to protect them while they do this, which obviously goes off without a hitch and everything works out as intended. No, we're attacked and overrun and things go sideways, but not before Vulcan struggles to kill a lone Deadwalker, pontificates about how hopeless everything is in a voice that kept reminding me of Simile Montano, but isn't, and...
The Deadwalkers are already close. I got one of their scouts.
God damn it, Vulcan! I've told you 100 times, recon means observing and reporting, not charging in and fighting without thinking.
Hang on. Yeah, that tracks. This is our mercenary captain, whose name is... Captain. It's actually Elric, but who cares? And he is none too pleased with us because Vulcan is the sarcastic, reckless child of the bunch, despite also being in charge of explosives, and was only meant to scout, not engage. Winning combination. He tasks us with securing the location by setting up mines, and we fight through increasing waves of enemies until this hulking beast called a Juggernaut forces us to flee into the temple. Captain orders us to check on the scribes who are being guarded by a fellow Blade member called Buffalo in the Invoking Chamber. You can get sidetracked by checking the other wings of the temple instead of going straight to Buffalo, which will result in a different Blade member being left for dead. This would actually matter to me if I knew Peeler for more than 2 seconds. Reaching the Invoking Chamber, the nerds are conjuring some mysterious power, while Buffalo and the only girl scribe Sybil watch, at least until the undead drop in from above and Sybil trips and falls over, looking like a helpless damsel, just long enough for Vulcan to heroically show up, only for Sybil to get up and start casting magic. Fighting off the undead, something goes wrong with the ritual and fiery energy surges into Vulcan.
He's wrong. The catalyzer shouldn't do that.
This seems healthy. We don't have time to question what just happened, however, as the Juggernaut breaks through the floor, grabbing and throwing us back outside. The beast briefly looms over Sybil, and her father Aeolus yells at it to leave her alone, which it does, in favor of turning to us. It could have easily killed Sybil then and there, and I know the reason could be, oh, your weird fiery energy drew its attention, but like, how much time would it take this thing to just squish her and move on? Not that I wanted it to do that, this moment was just odd. But yes, the Juggernaut turns its attention to us and our smoking body, while a voice labeled Demon says they won't let our weakness be our downfall before powering us up enough to fight the Juggernaut 1-to-1. Neat! And so begins the first step in hardly anyone reacting appropriately to what's going on in this goddamn story, because Captain breezes right past what just happened and focuses on getting everyone moving. On one hand, understandable, not a lot he can really add to the situation, and the Deadwalkers know their position, so it's best to just get out of here while there's breathing room. On the other hand... Then again, Vulcan's dialogue isn't much better, joking about a promotion immediately after screaming that she's burning, but that could also be explained with Vulcan trying to appear brave and unflappable because there's nothing to be done about it right now and the world is ending, so this is just one more thing, is what I would say if there was an indication that Vulcan had any real personality beyond being a sarcastic little shit. Fleeing the mountains, we travel down into the nearby swamps with the goal of reaching an elven village called Valvenor. The Red Scribes contracted the Freeborn Blades to protect them on their way to the city of Caraldthas, so that's what we'll do, even though it's stated multiple times that there are no taverns left to spend your paycheck as a mercenary, so what are we still doing here? On the way to Valvenor, Vulcan has a brief internal dialogue with the demon, and I have to say that I liked the demon's design, which will become much clearer later on, but for right now is very shrouded. The demon talks in butchered, ye olde English and isn't particularly happy about this turn of events, but it very much isn't a friend of the Ice Lords and wants them destroyed because their power is stolen from the Worldheart, the very thing that seems to be crucial for this world to exist. For now, your goals align. We're accosted in the swamp by an elven man called Rhelmar, and I once again long for the elves from World of Warcraft because when the devs aren't inexplicably trying to make them look more human, they have very long ears, eyebrows that are basically whiskers, longer canines, and glowing pupilless eyes. Hell, even the elves in Elder Scrolls look more distinct from humans than this, and I understand that so much of fantasy, particularly Western fantasy, was heavily influenced by Lord of the Rings, so creators would just default to what felt expected, or more likely the higher-ups would default to what felt expected, and therefore, in their minds, more profitable. Anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked here, but drop a comment down below if you would like a video of me bitching about standard fantasy races and how to make them more distinct and interesting. There's some brief and wholly unnecessary jousting as the men trade names and insults, threaten to take someone's balls, call someone fat, a whore-tongued bastard, and overall there's enough swearing peppered throughout the dialogue that it begins to feel like an effort in sounding mature. This world is so grimy and bleak and edgy, you guys, trust me. We learn that the elven prince Arundel fell into a coma after being wounded and is being cared for in Valvenor. The group splits up in order to avoid leading local beasts called chrysalids to the village, leaving two behind to draw the animals away. those two being us, obviously, and either Rhelmar or Sybil. Rhelmar knows the area, and Sybil wants to be a nerd and investigate the local flora. Being predictable, I choose Sybil despite her dad hissing and spitting at the prospect. After a jaunt through the swamp, we link back up with everyone at Valvenor, where things are less than ideal given the village has seen an influx of refugees fleeing from the Deadwalkers. There's only so much space and so much food to go around, but a local healer called Marana is doing her absolute most to care for people. The Red Scribe set up in Arundel's room to try and heal him, which means the blades are stuck here until he's on his feet again. There's busy work to do in the form of training the local guards, fixing their gear, collecting food and material for Marana's healing house, fetching a potential cure for Arundel, and generally just trying to make things suck slightly less for everyone. We can also recruit a new member of the Freeborn Blades in the form of Randval, who is voiced by Gideon Emery, otherwise known as Fenris. He and Rhelmar are the romance options for a female Vulcan. Sybil and are romance options for a male Vulcan, which is hilarious considering how little I was invested in any of these characters, even the ones you'd think that I would be. The only character I actually felt anything for and wanted to learn more about was the demon. They were genuinely interesting. Anyways.
But the situation here in Valvenor grows worse daily. And each new wave of refugees increases the risk of drawing unwanted attention to this jungle.
I'm letting that one go. So, the situation is not great and we can marginally improve it, but the main jump in plot progression comes when we investigate reports of a monster in the swamp that has attacked multiple people. Investigating these reports with Sybil, we eventually find an area overgrown with uncomfortably fleshy-looking brambles and vines that immediately made me think of the Emerald Nightmare from Warcraft, and in the middle of it all we find both the monster and a mysterious woman being held captive. Killing the monster, Sybil is horrified by the conditions the woman is being held in and urges us to free her, only for Aeolus to rush onto the scene, insisting that the woman is a witch and will control us with her magic. This is immediately suspicious because the swamps have been repeatedly described as extremely dangerous, but Aeolus just happened to make it out here by himself at the exact time the monster was no longer a threat. Sybil is understandably taken aback, arguing it would be inhuman to let the woman die here, and Aeolus retorts that the woman herself is inhuman. Doing a great job of making your case, sir. The woman claims to have been held captive by Aeolus, which he doesn't refute and defends as necessary, up to and including the monster that's already claimed multiple innocent lives, and he does such a terrible job of making this not look sketchy as hell, that I decide to free the woman, and as soon as Sybil moves to do so, Aeolus pulls a knife on her, fully looking like he's about to kill his own daughter to keep this woman caged. My brother in Christ, you are awful at this. Anyway, the mystery woman kills Aeolus as soon as she's free, and Sybil understandably feels a way about the whole situation, despite her father being prepared to murder her because it's still her father, and this is a lot to take in all at once.
But neither as powerful nor as evil-minded as they think me.
She lies to thee. She is hiding something, and it is not her body.
Why on God's green bollocks does the alien entity from the primordial realm have a sense of slut-shaming? Honestly, it really is just a conga line of remarks like these as soon as you meet her. Gotta make a sharp contrast between the innocent good girl Sybil and filthy McNasty's Dollar Tree dominatrix.
And he's hardly gonna find any gorgeous sluts wandering around the swamps.
You might be surprised.
You're too kind. I can't decide whether I'm flattered or vaguely insulted.
Don't change a thing, you're perfect.
So true. Thanks for noticing.
Stop it. Get some help.
So, this woman is called Edwen, and you'd be forgiven for thinking it's yassified Flemeth from Dragon Age. Thank you, Riovin, for that comment. It gave me a hearty chuckle. While Aeolus was being incredibly sketchy about the whole thing, Edwen makes no allusion to being an angel. She is interested in power and revenge and will do what she has to get it. Revenge against who, you might ask? That's for later. It's worth noting that during our time in the village, the demon has made itself known by chewing out the steward for being unable or unwilling to help improve matters in the village and asking the Blades to do it for him when, quite frankly, the world is ending, and everyone's focus is on moment-to-moment survival like ants preparing for a flood they aren't going to live through, and from the demon's perspective it's all pointless because unless we reach the Worldheart, which even someone as seemingly educated as Aeolus thought was just a fairy tale, the world itself will wither and die away. Again, I'm very interested in the demon and the fact that it's pointed out multiple times how particular a choice it is to call the entity a demon, a label that immediately paints it as something not to be trusted, as something evil and devious. It's just neat. I like what the game is playing with here. The next major issue in Valvenor is an odd sickness among the villagers and refugees where they've become catatonic. They don't talk, they barely do anything, they don't react to anything. It's more than a little concerning. Investigating this, we find a couple of people to talk to in the refugee camp, a wife with an affected husband and a husband with an affected wife. The important detail is that all of those sharing this condition keep disappearing at night only to return by dawn. A little sus, if you ask me. But the difference in how the wife and the husband react to their respective spouse is,
Do you have any idea where he goes off to?
No, I've got no idea. Not down the tavern, and that's the main thing.
It doesn't bother you at all?
Let's be honest. Considering the sort of women what are still available in the village, and what a rubbish lover he is, I doubt he's got a mistress. And he's hardly gonna find any gorgeous sluts wandering around the swamps.
Is there anything else strange about her, apart from the not talking?
Well, she ain't much between the thighs, if that's what you mean. She don't say or do nothing. Just sort of lets me get on with it. She don't even pretend to notice what we're doing.
Men, give them a piece of meat, and they're just a couple of minutes away from satisfaction and sleep.
I was only trying to give her a nice moment to patch things up between us.
yes, I'm sure the 2 minutes of dry sawing action was just magical for her. Look, this isn't just to the men, my audience, it's for everyone, but even if someone isn't explicitly saying no, you should still check in with them, and especially check in with them if they seem distant or completely checked out of what's happening, because if your sexual partner being clearly detached or not into it isn't an issue for you, reflect on that. Please.
Massive caveat!
This does not include kink or roleplay scenarios that both you and your partner have already discussed and explicitly consented to. No one should need me to say any of this, but unfortunately we all died in 2020 and we live in hell now. The point is, rolling up on these people at night leads to all of them jumping us like zombies.
Be gone, slut!
We put them down and head out to the treacherous eastern region of the swamp in search of the thing causing this problem, stumbling upon a cave that appears to be suffering from an infestation of ominous whispers. Our passenger, which, now that I think about it, is probably a better name for the demon, stops us from just traipsing into danger because the creature inside the cave will mind control us like it did those villagers unless we have protection or come up with some alternative to deal with it. I was ultimately curious what would happen if you keep giving the demon slack to work with, so I took its offer of protection to deal with the situation now rather than risk it getting out of hand. Additionally, the world is ending, and if this entity is the only thing that has any actual idea of how to unfuck things, then I can see someone like Vulcan embracing the possession as a last desperate grasp at hope for the future, regardless of what that means for them personally. Mind you, that's a characterization that exists only in my head. Vulcan remains a cardboard cutout of a person. We penetrate the swampy cavern with protection equipped and fight through a small army of undead servants until we come across this thing. And kill it, only for it to gloat that none of this matters, the village is already under attack and its masters will just raise it again anyway. Great. On the way back to defend Valvenor, the consequences of our actions kick in and we're sporting glowy demon eyes now. Neat. Also, before we run to the village, I just want to point out that you get one party member running around with you at a time, usually, and they are comically useless in cutscenes. They might as well just disappear entirely for all the good they do, but no, Vulcan is fighting for their life, meanwhile your companion is off in the corner just Returning to Valvenor, we take out the undead attacking buffalo, who immediately chews Vulcan out for not being in the village with the rest of them when the attack started, as if it wasn't known full goddamn well that Vulcan was investigating the source of the undeadifying sickness. There's a weird repeating sense of hostility towards Vulcan from various people as if they're to blame for anything that's happening, and it makes me feel like I missed several scenes worth of context. Maybe they're just sick of Vulcan being a sarcastic little shit all the time. Anyway, rushing around Valvenor, we defend the barricades, and I make damn sure to save Private Bumpkin at the main gate. We didn't talk about Private Bumpkin? Okay, so in a sea of largely British and European accents with the occasional Pacific Northwest American thrown in, there is a guard in this elf village called Private Bumpkin. And he sounds like this.
My respects, General, sir.
Name, rank, and mission, soldier, and make it fast.
Private Bumpkin, General, sir. Assigned to the Northwest Gate to prevent any intrusion, to keep them monsters from getting into the village, General, sir.
The world builder in me is about to have a conniption, so let's just move on with the understanding that this is dumb. Fighting through a moderate amount of bullshit, we eventually make our way to the village center, where we find Prince Arundel on his feet and facing down this grim-looking chap. It's up to us to actually kill this Deadwalker general, even if the prince and Edwen help in gameplay. Once the cutscene starts, both of them are standing off to the sides, like, okay, have your moment, queen! With the general dead, Prince Arundel intends to travel to Caraldthas to join his father and the armies of the remaining Free Nations, with the hope that their combined might will be enough to push the Ice Lords back. Sure. The demon, knowing just how long this shit has been going on for and how lethal a straight-up fight with the Ice Lords is, urges us not to join this battle. Our focus needs to be on the Worldheart, and if we die in a battle so a prince can impress his dad, any chance of actually saving the world long-term goes with us, so I opted not to join them for the battle. The Blades need to travel with them anyway because of the contract with the Red Scribes, but after that, we're going. At the very least, our captain is of the same mind. The continent is practically all ashes and the shuffling dead at this point, and the only thing that seems to have made even the slightest dent is this thing inside Vulcan. He sent someone ahead to Caraldthas to look for recruits in the city, so once there, the plan is to regroup and look for access to the Worldheart. On the way to Caraldthas, we have another internal chat with our guest about the need for power in the face of horrifying odds. Vulcan's transformation progresses in stages, and the demon warns that moving too quickly would risk killing her. But we're slightly on fire now, little horns are starting to sprout, and the upper half of our face is darkened. This is fine. Prince Arendel's voice brings us out of it, and he has zero reaction to Vulcan sporting horns and flames sputtering from her shoulder, which she did not have a moment ago. See, this is what I mean with people not responding appropriately. No one reacts to how Vulcan's appearance changes until you start to feel crazy, and then someone responds like a normal person. It's just the timing of those responses feels extremely off, like it was predetermined to happen at certain points in the game if your possession was at a particular percentage, rather than immediately the next time someone sees Vulcan and her case of demonic shingles has visibly gotten worse. Unfortunately for the prince, Caraldthas is a gutted, ice-blasted graveyard, and what's left of the elven army is cowering in some frostbitten caves nearby. It turns out that when the Ice Lords came to the city and all the soldiers were lined up on the walls ready to defend their home, one of the lords just water-bended an entire river over the city and dropped it in a flash-freezing deluge, killing everyone still outside. What remains of the elven forces is led by Commander Valen, who tells us that the king was last seen in the royal palace, so if we want to find him, that's the best place to look, and because we have to find our fellow mercenaries in this frigid mess, we might as well do the commander some favors. It's worth noting that Edwen correctly deduces that the Ice Lord responsible for the deadly attack was the one called Blackfrost. She sure has a lot of insight on the Ice Lords, doesn't she? Curious. So heading out onto the icy steppes surrounding Caraldthas, we get rid of various scouts, take over watchtowers, retrieve herbal components, and pretty much the same shit we did in Valvenor, making things slightly less terrible for the people just trying to survive a horrible situation. The important thing is that we finally run into the owner of the voice from the beginning narration, Mathras.
Now I've seen everything. The Deadwalkers kicking each other's asses.
I beg your pardon?
What? This one talks. What the hell are you? A lich? A zombie scribe?
We've only known one another a few seconds, and already you insult me. Charming, I must say.
Cool. Mathras helps us get inside the city, which is a mess of shattered buildings, icy streets, and endless levels of bullshit. But we free a ton of captives, from the Deadwalkers, from elven soldiers to our own mercenary men, and eventually cut down this multi-armed ice monster, whereupon the voice of the Elven King calls out to us.
Prince Arundel, what are you doing here, my lord?
I followed you, Vulcan. I must save our king, with or without your aid. What is this thing?
I don't know, but it doesn't look right.
Son, my boy, can it be you?
Oh, fuck.
By all the gods. Father, it cannot be!
Do not look upon me. I am so sorry. Do not stay. Take the crown and leave this place.
So, the Deadwalkers turned him into a Dark Souls boss, and for such a neat design you'd think this would turn into a boss fight, but no. Arundel puts his mother, father, and all the other souls trapped in this horrifying amalgamation of bodies out of their collective misery, and then we promptly slurp up the power used to create it for ourselves because of a decision we made 5 hours ago. Whoopsie daisy. Now we're even more flaming. Back at the camp, Prince Arundel angrily declares his intent to launch an attack on the city to reclaim it. Edwen telepathically digs around in the head of a Deadwalker soldier that was captured while we were out, and Blackfrost almost certainly knows where we are because of it now, and Sybil finds evidence of Edwen being around when the Ice Lords were known as the White Lords centuries ago. Interesting. The only thing we can actually act on right now is suspicious disappearances around the camp, which Commander Valen believes is the fault of Mathras and not Blackfrost getting a peep at our location because of Edwin's psychic probing, but whatever. Digging around for clues will eventually reveal it was one of his own men selling them out to the Ice Lords, and I was running out of steam at this point. Although it was also at this point the game gave me the biggest laugh I would get out of it, because talking to Sybil reveals that she's been trying to learn everything she can from Mathras, seeing as he's been active for 6,000 years and Sybil is a nerd who loves history. The problem is, she noticed that while he talks about everything from epic battles to fun stories throughout time, he leaves out anything romantic. If we go ask him about it for her, well, you saw the beginning.
Anyway, how is your sex life?
It seems to me that my sexuality is my own business, as well as which, I suspect my stories would be quite shocking to an innocent girl like that.
Well, I'm not innocent, so start talking.
I have been alive on Vertial a very long time, and before I lost all desire of any kind, I think I probably experienced almost everything. Though meeting you may have opened up new possibilities. To recount all my adventures to you in detail would require weeks, and I must confess that I would be a little shy of telling you all of my adventures. I would be afraid you might end up with a rather low opinion of me.
That man has experienced every possible kind of ussy you could imagine, every position, every kink, toys you've never heard of, his back blown out, his cheeks clapped. But he doesn't want to scandalize Sybil into an early grave because, as established, she is the sweet, innocent good girl of the party compared to the absolute whore Edwin, so we can lie to her or tell the truth, and because the truth dialogue seemed to paint Mathras in a negative light, I chose to lie to her about how being immortal makes romance painful, and that's why Mathras doesn't like to talk about it. A surprisingly forgiving approach for the game to give me, considering how it treats Edwin. Anyway, once we rescue all remaining freeborn blades, the captain immediately tries to leave, suddenly no longer believing that Vulcan's fiery powers are enough to tip the scales in our favor. Where the fuck did this come from? This leads to Vulcan challenging him for leadership, fighting him to the death, and hey-ho, Vulcan is captain of the freeborn blades now.
I always knew it would be you.
Preparing for our attack on the city, Prince Arundel forces us to take Rhelmar along with us because he doesn't trust Edwin by our side, leading to one of the very few times we have two people with us. Why does the narrative need you to have both Edwin and Rhelmar during this fight? Well, The plan is for us to sneak through the city, lower the drawbridge, and open the gates so that Arundel and the Elven army can push in. Vulcan's goal is to hunt the powerful entity left in charge of the Deadwalker forces still in the area, because that energy belongs to the Worldheart. Slurp slurp, it can make us stronger. So we do exactly that, fighting our way through the city until we come to a courtyard.
We're not alone. What the hell is that thing with all those legs?
It is a concubine. Lord Blackfrost has always had somewhat unusual erotic tastes. Why would she be here, unless she already knows of our plan?
Curse them! Look at the support pillars. They crawl with Deadwalkers.
A trap, and a good one. Your little friends will be taken from the rear, if you'll pardon the expression.
We must prevent it. We have to hurry to open the drawbridge.
I say we must not. This concubine has given us an opportunity. We must attack her while her troops are busy elsewhere. These are creatures of great power. You must absorb them one by one if you hope to stand against Lord Blackfrost. Those other men are already as good as lost.
Do not heed the words of this witch! If you do not open the bridge, all our soldiers will die, and this war will be over. I do not believe you even have need of this misshapen beast's supposed power. This evil whore is twisting your mind. She wishes to weaken us. From the beginning, she has been hiding something from us, and it will go ill for you if you trust her.
Really? I would have hoped for a little more affection from someone who spies on me when I bathe.
There's a lot to unpack here, not least of which the repeated labeling of Edwen as a whore based solely on her appearance, because at no point has she actually fucked anyone during this story. Not that the reality of a woman's sexual activity has ever stood in the way of a man imagining her as some kind of adult movie star in his head. The amount of times that I have heard a man call a woman a whore because she refuses to fuck him, thereby not fulfilling the definition of one, would give me enough nickels to fill the boot of a car. Point is, this is made into a big, consequential choice instead of, I don't know, sending both Edwen and Rhelmar away to lower the drawbridge? No, it has to be this? Okay. Also, the fact that Rhelmar accidentally refers to a female Vulcan with he just kind of adds to the feeling that all of this was written with a male Vulcan in mind. You know, conniving woman seduces a good man to evil with her spectacular tits or something, I don't know.
Demon in you, but you are worth no more than this dead living scum.
Calm yourself, Rhelmar. Open your eyes. This is our only chance.
Shut your mouth, witch. It is you that has turned his head, and I shall hold you to account for every one of my lost brothers.
Moving on. Slaying the concubine, we're dropped in on by Lord Blackfrost himself, whose design is quite neat. I like how gross and slinky he is. He's also one of the few characters whose voice acting doesn't come across as bored or concussed.
Why does it not surprise me to find you behind all this?
My Lord Blackfrost.
I'm happy to see you have survived your exile.
Why the mask?
Oh, you know, there was a sort of sudden power cut. As though someone had siphoned off the remaining fire from the Worldheart. It left a few marks. Our poor Crystal is particularly upset. But I imagine you know all about that, my dear white lady. Oh, I'm sorry, it's just white now, isn't it?
Know about what? That the whore Crystal is upset?
What is this game's deal with women? We don't even see this one, but all we know so far is that Edwen calls her a whore, and that she's upset about her physical appearance being damaged, because women and their girlish feelings about the one thing they're conditioned from birth to value above everything else, am I right? Not to mention Blackfrost idly musing that he should have turned Edwen into one of his concubines, and Vulcan casually remarking about it as getting turned into a zombie sex toy. But fucking whatever, yes, Edwen used to be one of the pre-Ice Lords, and had a relationship with Blackfrost until he betrayed her, stripped her of her power, and cast her out. We fight him, he mostly kicks our ass, and he leaves, letting us go explicitly because he wants to see what happens and thinks this won't end badly for him. With nothing left for us in Caraldthas, we grab what remains of the Freeborn Blades and the Red Scribes and head out to Blackfrost's domain. On the way there, we experience another internal conversation with the demon and become even crispier. But for a brief moment at the start, we get a much cleaner view of them.
I just think they're neat.
The demon is getting progressively restless because it's been like 300 years of torture, and every moment Vulcan wastes helping randos with side quests is another moment the demon has to spend in this suspended state of misery. We're pulled out of the internal conversation by Buffalo yelling at us, revealing that the group is traveling along a precarious ledge from which we are promptly yeeted by another concubine.
A concubine!
I'm not even going to bother questioning how Edwen ended up down here with us when the concubine very clearly singled Vulcan out. Separated from the group, we navigate some terrible tunnels, clammy caves, and squalid sewers filled with a variety pack of annoying undead arseholes, and is that Lord Marrogar?
None may enter the Master's sanctum! Bone Storm!
Finding our way out of this putrescent pit of corpses and memes from 2010, we stumble into the camp of our remaining allies, what little is left of the Red Scribes. It's explained to us that Blackfrost's domain is saturated in magic that strengthens the undead and weakens everyone else, so the only viable companion going forward is Mathras, at least until we can deal with the source of that corrupting energy. Now, it's in this final stretch of the game that we must fight through a truly obscene amount of bullshit, because here's the thing. This game has a crafting system, a lot of which relies on materials you get from slaying enemies. Sounds neat, right? Well, it would, if the enemies didn't respawn every goddamn time you need to pass through Frosty's tricked-out death maze for one quest or another. As it is, you spend most of Act 3 slogging back and forth wishing for the sweet release of death. You rescue some soldiers and freeborn blades from captivity, rescue Sybil, rescue Randval, only for the game to bug out and have him left for dead anyway, collect crystals to protect the camp, and get jumped by Rhelmar and Prince Arundel, who are still alive and angry about the drawbridge decision. The game really tries to make this emotional somehow, but I was mostly just annoyed. The main barrier to Blackfrost's sanctum is his top concubine, the Guardian, who is too powerful to take on directly. Instead, we have to deal with the 3 concubines directly under her and absorb their energy. Accomplishing that, we're able to confront her and...
You think you will defeat me because you bested my daughters? I should thank you for getting rid of those harlots by offering you a quick and painless death.
I'm about to have an aneurysm. Every woman except proper girl Sybil and the overworked bleeding heart healer in Valvenor is given this treatment. Vulcan doesn't count because a female Vulcan is functionally sexless to this narrative. I'm not saying I would have enjoyed a female Vulcan getting hit on and sexually harassed, but at least it would have been fucking consistent and had the chance of enlightening an otherwise oblivious male player to the experience. Anyway, Guardian slain, we get to our peak level of crispiness, say our final words with what allies we have left, and ascend the stairs to confront Blackfrost, where he once more threatens to turn Edwen into an undead sex slave. After a particularly annoying battle, Blackfrost is cut down and we enter the Worldheart. You'd think that would be the end of it, but no. We then have to fight through apparitions based on the choices we made to get here, until we finally come face to face with the demon. Man, come on! So the demon is angry at us for taking too long with pointless endeavors and tries to forcefully wrest control of our body from us. I think that's what it's trying to do anyway. Which you'd assume would be easy, because we are at maximum possession right now. And yet, once the demon is defeated, we're presented with a chance to talk to our allies and decide the fate of the world. Now, because we have high possession, we can choose to restore the Worldheart, and in so doing, the demon takes control and burns all life from the face of Vertiel, believing it's the only way to truly keep the Worldheart safe. All of this happened because mortal magicians tapped the Worldheart's energy with arcane spears that seemed to have left the demon in constant agony. The other option is to cut the Ice Lords off from the Worldheart and take all the power for yourself to hunt them down and keep an eye on the world as it rebuilds, though this does mean keeping the demon in miserable limbo, and rebuilding will take hundreds if not thousands of years. The third option is only available if you have low possession, where Vulcan sacrifices herself and the demon to only kill the Ice Lords, which spares life on Vertiel in this instance but leaves the Worldheart damaged. Not ideal, I would say, if the Worldheart is what keeps the world spinning, but better than nothing, I guess? You know what? Everyone here kind of sucks.
I have traveled this world and lived amongst its peoples, its elves, its humans, and I have witnessed the truth of their ilk. Vanquishing the necromancers will not suffice for them. Others will return to enslave the power of the Worldheart once more. There is but one remedy, one sentence that must be passed.
No! They've learned their lesson. They'll be able to make a fresh start.
Their world must be destroyed with flame.
No, please, give them a chance. Think of those who helped us. We can't just condemn all of humanity.
In what way is that of concern to us? We are no human.
Okay, so maybe it was the intention of the writers for me to end up here, but I felt more for the demon than anyone else in the story. Most of the characters are unpleasant or abrasive, with only a handful of exceptions that didn't really endear me all that much either. In contrast, the demon feels more complex and interesting. It's more alien than devilish, and I wish there was more to the conversations you have with it. The writing overall felt like a bunch of neat ideas that weren't allowed time and space to breathe properly, so the gaps were filled in by needlessly abrasive dialogue as if that would give the game an interesting personality. Ooh, look how grim and mean everyone is. Isn't this cool and edgy? No, just because they're a different flavor of asshole doesn't mean this isn't a smorgasbord. Look, if you can't appreciate me at my ass jokes, you don't deserve the other, equally terrible jokes. I appreciate the combat for what it was trying to do, but with its focus on parrying and dodging, you're at an immediate disadvantage if you go down the warrior skill path instead of the quick-footed, dagger-wielding ranger path. I understand if the intent was to trade power for speed, it's just that playing in warrior stance feels like a punishment by comparison, which is not ideal. As mentioned earlier, the crafting system is neat in theory, but the constant respawning of enemies made going back and forth for quests an absolute slog. While I can't say that I recommend this experience, I'm glad that I played it if for no other reason than the idea of the supposed demon not actually being the expected devil on your shoulder is something I would like to see more of. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below for the algorithm gods. Special shout out to my YouTube members and patrons who are all very handsome people. If you'd also like to be called a very handsome people, you can support what I do here or check out the link in the description. Members and tip jar patrons get their name in the credits, while patrons of the nerd tier will occasionally get behind the scenes content and video teasers. If you enjoy live streaming, I can be found over on Twitch, where I typically stream every Wednesday at 8 PM British time. For now, don't forget to drink your water, take your medication, be kind to yourselves, and I will see you all next time.